musicians and exploiting people. So it was very to really be how will I put this English word? To really be sincere and truthful and be open with your affairs. That was very difficult. Then we had that international big break, bang, bang, bang. Then the musicians now believed I was making money. And if you know the recording business, everything is recoupable in the recording business. So if you say, I want a jet, the recording company will buy you the jet. It's just that forever and ever you'll be paying for that jet. So the musicians said to the man they wanted one. We were sharing rooms. Everybody wanted a room to themselves, double room, the king size room, this room. Everybody wanted, and I say, you are giving me more problems. And we'll be like on a tour of like 27, 30 gigs, and they will demand this in the middle. And I had to give it to them because they will not play. And if they did not play, I will not honor my engagements. And nobody will call their name. They will just say, they will blacklist Femi Kuti. So at the end of the day, I was always coming back with no money. Now, Nigerians could not understand, why are you touring so much and not making money? Now, I did not want to talk bad about my musicians or spoil that Nigerians I'm traveling with, they are so problematic. They are giving me stress. So I will keep my mouth shut. I just enter my little hole in, I used to stay normally there. And I was really depressed at this time.
Okay, any regrets so far?
No, I'm not one to regret because probably because of the life I've had, I've always had to, even when I'm down, I've had to pull myself up again. And I've learned that point is like a learning process. It has taught me to be more patient. It has taught me to be more humble. It has taught me to be not judgmental on issues. Like find, why is it like this? Why are we like this? I will not just conclude that somebody is a bad person. For instance, if somebody is a thief, I keep saying he's a thief, I will say he wasn't born a thief. Why is he stealing? There must be something, there is an issue wrong with it. I will probably investigate. I will not just say, he's a thief, condemn whoever it is. There is a reason. We are not born bad. I don't believe we are born bad. Society makes us desperate and bad.
What was the first instrument you ever played?
The trumpet.
The trumpet?
Yes, I was 8. My father bought me this trumpet, but he didn't give me a teacher. And his cousin, Okolawo, started to teach me the scale of C. Now, the trumpet is when you clean the trumpet, there are valves. And if you don't put them in properly, you will not be able to blow air. Because it has to be, there's a way you put it in, and so wind can pass through the trumpet. And if you just mis-set it, it will just block the air. So, and I didn't know this at this time. So I put it wrong and I couldn't blow. So I just put it under my bed. Unfortunately or fortunately, my father now moved to the sax. But I was so into my father that as soon as he moved to the saxophone, I wanted to play the saxophone. So he bought a saxophone for me. So that's how I moved to the saxophone.
Blew it away.
Today now.
Well, you're all around music. You're a jazz artist. You have a band. How would you view contemporary musicians who escape with not having a band and just move around? What would you say?
There are very few that can excel globally today. That means you are talking like Michael Jackson, Madonna.
I'm talking about Nigeria.
Oh, you are talking. I'm even say in the international scene that you can really count those that can do that on the big stage. You don't have a band, and you want to always be traveling or touring. That's hard. So in the Nigerian sense, I mean, it's not possible. You probably last 5 years, maximum a decade. Maximum. So my advice will always be to the young artists is pick up an instrument. Because musicians are very funny. If you now go into the studio and you are now telling the musician, play for me, do. They might, maybe because you have some money to pay them, after a while they will start making fun of you that, who is this guy that keeps coming and you say play do. And it also, they will start to disrespect you because to be good on your instruments, it's a kind of, you are arrogant. There's a kind of arrogance musicians have. And if they will not, even me, if you cannot really, if I don't think you have any musical abilities and you are instructing me, after a while I'll ask you that, how is your own self? Who are you to be telling me, go and be a lawyer in that case, or, you know?
All right, now let's talk about your childhood. Now, how was it like growing up with your father? Seeing your father so up there and, you know, always having something to say against the government because the government wasn't even, you know.
Remember, at the beginning, it wasn't always against the government. At the beginning, it was playing high life. Our home was, I used to stay in the home with, Kalakuta hadn't started at the beginning. My mother had just come from England with my father, 2 kids, and had my younger sister in Nigeria. I remember from 1966. Now, 66, then the Civil War. This was just at the point the Civil War started. Nigeria was... In Nigeria, in Lagos in that time, we slept with the doors open. The only room you locked was your bedroom. So there was nothing like the fence. It was so peaceful. That beach, you had to walk like 2-3 kilometers from the road to the beach, to the water. Lagos was so different. Palm trees everywhere. It was a great place to be. After the Civil War, things just started to change. Everywhere started getting rowdy. Robbery started to happen, blah, 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 blah. And Fela started getting into politics. Fela now, my father, we call him Fela because he told us not to call him Daddy. He didn't want to. Excuse me when I say Fela, it's not out of disrespect. I've acclimatized to saying Fela like everybody. And then he went to America and he was gone for 9 months. At the time he came back, I remember my sister and I used to make fun of him because when he came back, he would say, hey man, hey, goddamn, man. And we used to be, what's wrong with this, our daddy said, because he has gone to America, he would let us hear what everything, man. But, I mean, we had our own jokes we used to crack as young ones, my sister, my 2 sisters and myself. And then Kalakuta started in 1970 and my mother moved out of Kalakuta. And then Fela, the first arrest I think was in 73. And when he was arrested and everything just kind of changed in our lives. So we knew because he was singing Jem Koku, which was his first major hit. And it was unbelievable. Just everybody was just playing. Anywhere you go, everybody was saying Jem Koku. That song was so popular. And I think it shocked him as well because he was very poor at the beginning. And his mother used to kind of feed the family. And then this hit just came, Jem Koku. Then he had another one, Alujonjo Ikiju, and he was having hits after hits. And then Kalakuta started because everybody, his girlfriends started staying in the house. All the boys, hangers on started staying in the house. I don't like to use that word hanger on, but okay, let's say fans. Everybody started staying. By the time he goes for a gig and comes back, everybody is sleeping in the parlor. So my mother didn't think it was conducive for us, the children. So she moved out and he rented a flat for us in Ikate, Akpoguma, Igbobi. And then the first arrest was, he was arrested for Indian hemp and he was taken to Lion Building. And the first time we just saw him behind bars and we just started to cry that, we were so ashamed that, our father, blah, blah. We didn't want to go to school the next day. So it was my mother that said to educators that, no, this is your father. This is what your father is about. You have to be proud of what he's doing, blah, blah. But we just knew he was very popular. I mean, you could not go anywhere as Fela's children and you will not be identified. It was, and then you just come across 1 or 2 people he sang against or their children and you have you yab yourselves. But that was really, we were always in the majority by far, 90 to 91 to 1. It was incredible. Fela's car could not pass any street from Mushin, Ojuelegba, and everybody, Fela, and he had a special horn on his car. The horn, I still remember. It would do, paparam, pam, 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 paparam, pam, pam, pam. Everybody, Fela, you can, So, as children, all this was really,
Interesting. But
then it affected our school. And he did not really want us to go to school. He didn't even want us to go to school at all. He felt, not that he didn't want us to have education. He did not want us to have this Western education, which he felt was colonizing us. Education that taught us that Christianity was the way forward for Africa. Education that taught us that Africa was inferior to the West, which he was so Pan-Africanist. He was talking about Kwame Nkrumah, blah, blah, blah. So by 79, he convinced me now to leave school. and I moved. I ran away. My mother didn't know I ran away because he just picked me up in school and says, look, what do you want to do? Do you want to go through this education or you want to play music? I said, and everybody was waiting for my answer. I said, I want to play music. He said, now I advise you as your father, get in the car, let me take you. I said, and I just got in the car. And everybody